President Biden still also hasn't addressed Congress, which puts him in a small class of presidents who have ignored the legislative branch for this long. Insiders say he's waiting until he's got that big victory under his belt, perhaps after he signs the COVID relief bill when that passes. But why is the White House playing games and leaving us all in the dark? Well, let's get into it with tonight's Man Panel. We've got conservative strategist and Right Turn Strategies president Chris Barron is back. Oh, yes, and comedian and host of Part of the Problem. It's a podcast. It will change your life. He is Dave Smith. And Democratic strategist, former DNC advisor, and one of my favorites, Kevin Walling, is here, rounding out the Man Panel. Very manly. So, Chris Barron, I have said all along that Joe Biden is not a man. He is a committee. And the person who is the figurehead for the committee made a great error last night saying, I'll take some questions. And then you can hear Nancy Pelosi's brain going, no, we weren't going to take questions. No, I was told there'd be no questions. And then beep, bars and tones.
So here's what the most embarrassing part of this is. What on earth makes Biden handlers think that the mainstream media that has slobbered all over him from the very beginning is going to ask him anything but softballs? I mean, the fact that they're actually trying to protect the leader of the free world from going out and hitting softballs pitched to him by his fans is absolutely terrifying. I mean, honestly, it'd be one thing if he's saying, like, I don't want to go on Fox News, or I don't want to go on OAN, I don't want to go on Newsmax. You think CNN is going to be asking him hard-hitting questions?
Yeah. Yes, and you know why? Because digital subscribers at New York Times are fleeing. Viewers are fleeing from places like MSNBC and CNN, Dave. And when they realize that, then there are going to be reporters who want to have their Jim Acosta moment, either with Jen Psaki, better yet, with Joe Biden. It's going to be all too easy to trip him up, but you can't keep him locked up forever.
Yeah, I guess not. But I think the answer to Chris's question is that they are really concerned that he can't even handle the easy questions. And I got to say, I look at this and I think it's very strange that the baby boomer generation just would not pass the torch of political power. I mean, when I was like a teenager in the 90s, basically all of the same people were in power, you know, Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and all these people, and they never passed the torch. And the situation that we're in now is the president is just way too old. And everybody knows this, but no one, at least on the left side of the country, wants to admit it. Joe Biden is 80, and he looks like an 80-year-old, and not a particularly sharp 80-year-old. And to have this guy in the most consequential, high-pressure, important position in America is downright insane. And it's really something to watch everybody pretend that the emperor has clothes, and they were doing it for a long time because there was such animosity toward Donald Trump on the Democratic side. But everybody knows this. This guy is just not up to the job.
Yeah, and we all saw this coming, Kevin. We knew that this is how they were campaigning. And, you know, one of the things I miss about the Trump administration was President Trump's, like, crazy, like bat poop crazy press conferences that went an hour plus, where he just fought with people and said outrageous stuff, and everybody loved it. Even the people who hated him, they loved seeing the president joust. Will Joe Biden ever do that? Do you think he will ever have a no-holds-barred press conference like that?
I think he will. I mean, it made for great television. I'm with you,
Do you want to
Kennedy,
make a bet?
during
Do you
the
want to bet $1,000 right now? My track record is great.
I will bet you $20 that he will have a press conrance in the next week and a half or so.
Over 35 minutes. Over 35 minutes.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think
$1,000.
I think $20. I'm not betting you $1,000. $20,000. Good Lord. I mean, here's what we're seeing, though. I mean, you're seeing a communication strategy where you're seeing the president address different issues every day from the podium, whether it be economic stimulus, whether it be COVID. And he's got an approval rating near 60%. And you saw Trump taking questions like a crazy guy in your question, Kennedy, and he never cracked 50%. So maybe it's a winning strategy to not have the president every day out there just fielding wild questions, but actually, focusing on giving speeches about COVID relief, about the economic stimulus that he's going to hopefully pass next week.
Those are speeches that he doesn't believe in, that someone else wrote, and someone pulls a string and he's like, bah, 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 COVID relief,
I don't think anybody pulls Joe Biden's strings.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a number
That's part of the problem.
Yeah, no, it truly is a committee. I mean, you can barely see the strings. It's very impressive. Well, one reason the Dems may want to keep President Biden in the basement is because when he pops his head out, he insults half the country. Today, Texas Governor Greg Abbott lashed out at the president's assertion that Texans and other liberty lovers are engaged in, quote, Neanderthal thinking for wanting to reopen their economies and end the state's mask mandate. Testify, Governor.
First, it obviously is not the type of thing that a president should be saying. But second, he kind of said it on the worst day he could have, because the same day he said that, in Texas, the Biden administration was releasing illegal immigrants into our communities. That is Neanderthal type approach to dealing with the COVID situation.
Yeah, don't get me started on Lucy, the afarensis pre-hominid. All right, we'll have more on the border crisis coming up. But first now, more lawmakers, including Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves and Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, condemning the president for showing contempt for middle America after billing himself as Mr. Unity. With more and more states scrapping mask mandates and fighting with the Biden administration over lockdown restrictions, is the president starting to lose control of the country's pandemic crisis? Chris Barron, I think they are, because now people, all they have to do is look at the numbers and they go, wait a second, my kid's not in school, my state's economy sucks, I can't do the stuff that I want to do. Why are we doing this again? And that's what they're asking. It doesn't matter party. They're over it.
They need the fear, though. They need the fear. Their legislative agenda has no chance of passing unless you convince people that we have to do it or grandma's going to die. And here's what's so outrageous about this. The Biden administration and the left acts like Texas doing away with their mask mandate is they're boldly going where no one's ever gone before. We have no idea what will happen. Yeah, we do. States like Florida have never had a mask mandate. States like New Hampshire have never had a mask mandate. This isn't like some untested thing. The facts are in. We know that there is largely no difference between states that had mask mandates and states that didn't. And in fact, the states that had the highest per capita death rates were the states that had mask mandates and that had the most severe lockdowns. So they need to acknowledge the fact that they're going to have to push their legislative agenda on its merits at some point, not just based on pandemic porn.
So if you're sitting there in Texas, Dave, and you've got the governor going, hey, you know what? Things suck. Let's just open up the economy. Screw it. No mask mandates. Let's try and do this. And we just got to trust you. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. And then you have Beto O'Rourke going, they literally want to sacrifice the lives of our fellow Texans. Who are Texans going to listen to?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Beto O'Rourke and even Joe Biden, Donald Trump, the elections were a lot closer than I'd like. So I'm sure there will be some Texans who listen to them. But the reality, for those of us who still live in reality, is that it's been obvious since about last summer that the lockdowns and mask mandates and all of these government policies have absolutely no demonstrable effect in terms of curtailing the spread and the deaths of the virus. And to call it a Neanderthal policy, I guess the Neanderthal was roaming the earth in 2019. It really wasn't that long ago that we were living like normal people. But these things they don't work. The truth is that there are certain situations where wearing masks are beneficial, and most people are still going to wear them in those situations, usually when you're indoors, crowded around a lot of people for long periods of time. But to just see the mass hysteria and delusional thinking, like when Tom Brady's walking outside without a mask 100 feet away from everybody, and people are like, oh my God, you're not wearing a mask. And these are the same people who tell you to follow the science. I mean, there's no science that suggests wearing a mask outside does anything. So it's just, this is good. It's good to see a little bit more freedom. Maybe we'll get back to the once almost free country that we were.
I don't know when that's going to happen. I have to be honest, Kevin, because this outrage and the pearl clutching reaction to Texas, they're overshooting it. You know, Beto O'Rourke and Gavin Newsom, by calling this reckless and being so outraged, they're missing how to make their states and their economies better. And then calling people Neanderthals and saying this is Neanderthal thinking, where does that land on the deplorable scale?
I mean, Kennedy, I mean, we're so close to getting past this crisis. I mean, we're up to 2 million vaccinations a day. 80 million Americans at least have one dose. We are so close. We're all exhausted. We're all frustrated. It's been a year since this past week, since I was in studio with you last. I miss seeing you in person. We're so close, and masks do work. And again, you know, the problem is that they become so politicized. But on both sides, it's become a Republican-Democrat issue whether you wear those masks. We've got 2-3 more months before every adult, according to President Obama, will be eligible and can receive that vaccine. We just have to hold tight. And this is coming from a single guy without any kids at home. I know you got 2 daughters at home, so it's very easy for me to say that. But we're so close, and we can't let up.
We are. Yet, you know, still we're no closer to having schools, especially high schools, fully open. And I sense the frustration from people. And, you know, Chris and Dave are right in that, yes, a lot of people still have to wear masks. If you are immunocompromised, if you're older, if you haven't gotten the vaccine and you want to go to the grocery store, absolutely mask up. But that's your choice. That is you exercising your own personal responsibility. And that's what politicians should encourage, not these oppressive mandates that only add to the spring fever. And, you know, it's like when that hits, woo, never mind. You don't have a mask for that. All right, the man panel is going to stick around because I demand it. Coming up, however, the Senate's $1.9 trillion stimulus bill still not signed, sealed, or delivered. And they're starting to tackle the pork-filled debt bomb.